Do you need a landing net for your fishing kayak? We're going to talk about that. Hello and welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Fish Talk, a show where I have 5 minutes on the timer to discuss all things fishing. If you're new to this series, it actually appears every single Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. So click that red subscribe button below to stay tuned. I just loaded 5 minutes on this timer here, and you know what that means. Boop! It's time to get real. We're talking about kayak fishing and nets. Do you need a net on your kayak? Well, if you've watched my channel for the last, since it's been around, you've seen that I've never used one once. And the reason is because I don't actually have one. But that might change. And so that's why today I thought it'd be a great time for this episode, is because I'm thinking about buying one myself. So I kind of want to talk about my past and then my future. My past is 3.5 years on a kayak without fishing with a net. I'm going to talk about why and how it's worked for me. And then my future is I'm going to likely buy one at some point. But then I'm going to talk about what I'm looking for, a couple brands that stand out to me, and why I want to own one in the first place. So let's talk about my past. The first thing is this. I've had this feel free for 3.5 years. Like I said, I've been fishing out of it and catching all sorts of fish. I haven't lost a ton of fish. There's been a few, but I don't know that a net would have necessarily changed that. So why does it really matter if I get a net? Well, as you know, I don't catch a lot of giant fish, but I generally can land the decent fish that I do pull up to the kayak. But here are the main things that I'm considering moving forward. One, I am in Michigan, therefore I am in pike country, therefore I don't want a tooth to bite my finger off. That's pretty simple, right? When I reach down there and there's a big old pike, I want to be able to just kind of net it rather than grab at it, because its teeth might bite me and that won't feel good. I don't know, maybe I'm a wimp. You can make that decision, I don't care. The other thing is this. You know what? I've been fishing topwaters a little bit more this year than I did in the past, and I love throwing a jerkbait in the spring. Anytime you're fishing with a treble hooked bait, you don't need to be reaching down and trying to grab at a big bass when it gets up next to your kayak. If you fish with a lot of those type of baits, just do yourself a favor now and buy yourself a net. Because trust me, if you get a treble hook in your finger and there's a fish on the other side, it does not feel good. Fortunately, I've never had that happen from my kayak, knock on wood. But I have had it happen from bank, and it was terrible. It was terrible. If that happens to you, I feel terrible for you. But the other thing is tournaments. I've only fished one in my past, and fortunately I was catching fish on a jig all day, and I was just smoking them. But moving forward, if I start fishing more tournaments, obviously I am going to want a landing net, because the last thing you want to happen is like a 5 or 6 or 7 pound bass come up and flop off right next to the boat. Because what are you going to do then? What are you going to do after you get done cleaning up the pee in your pants? You're going to start throwing up. You're going to start crying. These are things that I don't like doing. These are things that I would try to avoid as a whole. And that's why just buying a net in the first place and scooping that fish up and then jumping with joy in your kayak, that is more like what I want to do with my life. So I'll buy a net. But then I got to catch a 5 or 6. We'll figure out that part later. Okay, so what would I look for? The moving forward piece. I'm thinking about buying one of these things. What would I look for? Obviously, you guys know that a priority of mine is comfort and convenience on the water. I don't want a big bulky thing. I don't want to look like somebody crammed a Ranger boat inside of a kayak and I'm just like clustered in with 600 rods and 500 pounds of tackle. That's not me. That never will be me. I've seen people that do that. No, it doesn't look that fun. It looks like too much work. So I would look for something that's really small, and I would look for something that's floating, because obviously, you don't want to see your net just drop over the side and then just sink slowly to the bottom, because that would also make you cry, and that's not fun either. So couple that I saw, and I probably need to do a little bit more research here, but a couple that I saw that immediately stood out to me is one, the Forever Last, because it's got this little clip on the end and it's a very short handle, and so you could just clip it to the side of your kayak and it'll float as well. So boom, it pretty much does everything that I would want it to do. The other is the Ego. It also floats. It doesn't have a clip on it, but I'm pretty sure I could easily install one. And it's also relatively low profile. And both of these are pretty affordable. I will link those both below, but I'm going to probably do a little bit more research, and I will let you guys know if I ever do buy one, what I end up choosing. If you are looking for a net, let me know what you're looking at, because I would love to know. Wait a second, let's cancel this out. All right, so we didn't go 5 minutes today, so I kind of cheated the whole 5-minute fish talk thing, but let me know this. Do you use a net when you go kayak fishing? If so, what kind of net do you use? Do you have a certain brand that you like? Drop a comment below, because I would love to know. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and We'll catch you next time.